GUNNR Optics was nice enough to send me a 1:8 first focal plane LPVO. This thing's got locking turrets. It's pretty sweet. I just zeroed the LPVO and the offset red dot, and we're gonna see how it does as a multitude of distances here. Let's turn up the volume. Welcome back. Today we have the GUNNR Odin 1:8 first focal plane LPVO. And first things first here, my mount. Yeah, foreshadowing. Right? But that is not the fault of the LPVO. That is the fault of me, the user, and the mount, and just testing too many optics and not using a torque wrench. But this mount did come loose while I was shooting, and to be honest, still did decently well with it. The LPVO itself has positives as well as negatives. Now, before we start, I do want to explain my biases a little bit. I am not a giant LPVO fan. The optic that was on this rifle before I put the LPVO on was an EOTech with a G33 magnifier with the flip to center mount. That is my preferred optic setup for like 90% of AR-15 shooting. I like a really good 1X. And with an LPVO, a lot of the time you either get a really good max, magnification, 8X in this case, or you get a really good 1X. Sometimes you get both, but you generally have to pay for it. I've noticed one thing already. I really like the first focal plane when it comes to shooting farther. The reticle leaves a lot to be desired at close distances, and the illumination is barely visible out here. But it does have a great, 8X reticle. So we're gonna shoot that for distance, transition to the red dot for up close, and see how that goes. So now when we talk about paying for it, where does this LPVO fall in the price range? Well, it is not a $150 cheapo LPVO, and you can tell that with the build quality and the feature set. It is pretty dang good. Where does it fall? Well, it falls about in the same price range for one that a lot of people know well and one that I own as this right here. This is the SIG Tango MSR. This one's a 1:6, which is a little bit cheaper than the GUNNR Odin here 1:8. But the 1:8 version of the SIG LPVO is close in price to this. So we're talking, $300 to $400 on these LPVOs. Now they have a 1:6, a 1:8, and a 1:10. The 1:6 and the 1:10 have a 34 millimeter tube. The 1:8 in the middle there only has a 30 millimeter tube. Now, to be quite honest, I would have loved to have tested one of the 34 millimeter tube optics. They gave me the choice which one to pick, but I have mounts for a 30 millimeter tube because I already own an LPVO with a 30 millimeter tube. And so that's the one that I tested. And I also just wanted to test a 1:8. Like I said, you generally with an LPVO, there's trade-offs. And with a more budget-friendly 1:10, I feel like you're generally going to lose out on the 1X. Well, it turns out even on the 1:8, you do lose out on the 1X. But the 8X, pretty fantastic, to be honest. So that's kind of where we are with this one. It does benefit greatly from having an offset red dot. But I feel like LPVOs generally do. So The reason why I talked about my preferred optic setup firsthand is because that's where some of the frustration shooting an LPVO comes from, is that it's just not as fast as a red dot. But that is general. That is LPVO things. And so it's hard to fault this LPVO for that. What I can fault it for is for the reticle at 1x. It is a first focal plane optic, which is awesome. That means that all of your holds and your Christmas tree reticle work no matter where your magnification is set at. The problem is when you take it down to 1x, there's like no reticle to look at. This video is sponsored by Venice AI. Do you ever wonder what ChatGPT does with your conversations? We all know that our phones, Alexa, everything like that, listens to our conversations and then advertises to us based on what we say. Well, what else are these things doing with our personal information? They're selling it to third parties, including governments. In fact, the director of the NSA, the former director, is now sitting on the board of ChatGPT, which is why I'm using Venice AI. Venice AI is an AI software. It uses open source software that you don't have to download. It goes straight to your web browser, but the biggest thing is that it's private and permissionless. And so you don't have to worry about them selling your information to anybody else, which is kind of why it's a big deal to me. I like privacy, even though I show everything that I do on a YouTube channel. My daughter, she's 13. She uses AI for all kinds of things these days. She's been writing stories with it. She's been making music with it. It is incredible what you can do with AI. It's a very powerful tool, but keep your privacy while you use it with Venice AI. I like the Pro plan personally. It just gives you a lot more that you can do, and you can get a 20% off on your Pro plan if you sign up using my link. That is venice.ai/sawtooth-tactical. Use that code to get 20% off. The code is sawtooth-tactical. Now that we've tightened the mount back up, let's talk about this LPVO. It has great features. Although some of them, like the illumination, the feature is there, but it just isn't that great. As far as the turrets go, they are fan-freaking-tastic. So zeroing this thing was really, really nice. It only took a few rounds to get it zeroed. First I zeroed it for a 50, 200 yard zero. And then I confirmed at 100, and then I confirmed at 200, and it was on point. I mean, zeroing this thing is easy, and it's got nice locking turrets. Lock. I'm gonna try not to unzero it. Hopefully it's still zeroed, even though the mount came loose while I was out shooting. But it has very tactile, very audible quarter MOA clicks, and then the turrets lock. And as you can see up top there, so you can unscrew that, move your turret, put it back down on the 0 position, and you can actually dial these turrets for shooting at greater distances, which is where I think this LPVO shines. There's a reason why I put it on my 14.5-inch Dream rifle build here, because I wanted to test it at some distance. Now, I didn't take it out to like 500 yards. But I took it out to 250 and it was child's play. In fact, shooting this at 250 on a tripod was easier than shooting it at 1x at 25 yards. And that's kind of the thing with LPVOs, and that's kind of my problem with them. There's a reason why you don't see a bunch of LPVOs behind me. Now, really good high-end LPVOs are fantastic, but even many people that have those will also either use an offset red dot or a piggyback like RMR on top of it. And there's a reason for that. So with any kind of scope, you have eye relief and you have an eye box. And this one actually has very nice eye relief. Like I can be pretty far away from it and get a good sight picture. And that's not even on 1x. Like pretty dang good. But the eye box, when I bring it up, I mean, it's fine. The thing is there's just, because it's first focal plane, there's like no reticle to draw my eye into at 1x. The reticle that you see on this thing gets so small at 1x. I feel like to do a good first focal plane, you have to have some kind of big outer ring that comes in that becomes a obvious center point to focus on when you're bringing the rifle up quick at 1x. Now, one of the reasons, so this SIG Tango MSR, and GUNNR Optics told me to compare it to other LPVOs in its price range, so I don't really have a problem doing this. This is a budget LPVO. It's like $329 these days or something. And this is a second focal plane optic. It doesn't have nearly as many features as the GUNNR Optics LPVO does. But the reticle at 1x, well, it's the same as at any distance because it's a second focal plane. It's not as good at distance, but it ain't bad. But at 1x, it's fantastic. And the illumination is, I wouldn't call it red dot bright, but I could turn the illumination on this, and there's a big frickin' segmented circle that I could pull up and see like a red dot, even if I don't get that perfect, you know, eye box when I'm trying to go quickly. With this thing, I can't see anything unless I get a perfect sight picture through it. And so that's my biggest gripe with it. So I've already found that I really like this reticle for distance. So we put it in the tripod. We're back here at about 200 yards. And we're gonna see how easy that is. Should we take it back even farther? Now, I mentioned the negative, and to me it is the reticle at 1x. As far as the positives go, this reticle is fantastic at 8x, and honestly, you know, 6x, 7, even 5. But at 8x, it is great. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys the reticle somehow, like try to see if I can get my camera through here when I'm in the editing process. But when you have the magnification up, this reticle is so easy to use. I mean, it's fantastic. I love shooting this thing at a little bit of distance. It's got that Christmas tree reticle, and so you get all of your holds for distance, you get wind holds, but you also have a segmented circle that is just, I mean, you can just put your target within that circle and rip shots at distance, and it's super duper easy. If, and this would be my biggest thing, the biggest way that they could improve this optic is by having that same circle that's so big that it's outside of your sight picture at 8x, but as you come down to 1x, that big outer circle becomes your focusing point at 1x, then this LPVO would be fantastic. As it sits, it's great if you use it with an offset red dot because you can shoot at distance with it very easily, offset red dot for close-up shots. And that is honestly how I set up an LPVO anyway. There's a reason I already had this mount set up the way it was with the previous LPVO that was in it. I like red dots and I like EOTechs. I like a 1x that doesn't have any eye relief, that doesn't have any parallax. That's just what makes close-up fast shooting really easy for me. Now, I have used LPVOs that work great at 1x. I have a good friend that I shoot with all the time. In fact, I was up training with him yesterday. He's got an LPVO, and to be honest, I couldn't even tell you what brand it is. I think it's an Arkin. And it has a very interesting reticle in it. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but it has, like what I was talking about, what this one would benefit from, where it has this outer ring that when you go to shoot it at 1X, that ring becomes a very good center aiming point. And so, going from low ready up to shooting at targets at a close distance, I noticed I could almost shoot that as fast as a red dot. With this one, I couldn't. It was, honestly, like right now I've got it at 1X, and the reticle is so small that even when you turn the illumination on, there's just nothing there to illuminate. And so this isn't meant to be a negative review in any way, because I love this as a scope for shooting longer distances with this rifle. And it's going to stay on this rifle for the foreseeable future because I've got other guns with shorter barrels and shorter range optics. And this is the problem with being a YouTube guy or whatever, is that, like, I spend freaking all this money on an EOTech that now just sits, not getting used on anything. Because I want to run this LPVO on this gun. 14.5 inch is a good barrel length for an LPVO with an offset dot. And so I think this is a very appropriate optic setup for this gun. The glass clarity on this is fantastic. It's really, really good. Now, where is this optic made? It is made in China. But you know what? I'm not sure how much that really matters anymore. I use a lot of holo red dots. They're made in China and I freaking love them. The LPVO is made in China. The glass looks really, really good. That's a big thing with like an LPVO once you get into the higher magnification. If your glass isn't very good, you lose a lot of that light transmission, especially shooting at distance, whatever. Like, not with this one, man. Target was super clear at 250 on 8X. I could have probably taken it out to 400 or 500 yards really easily. It was like ridiculously easy today where I was. Unfortunately, that was about all the distance I really could shoot today because there's people shooting farther down. But I'm going to take this thing out to 500-600 yards, and I'm sure it'll do just fine. And it's got the reticle for it, and it's got the glass clarity for it. It's got your diopter adjustment here. Make it super clear for you, and you're going to have a great time taking your AR-15 out to greater distances with this LPVO. It really works well for that. Back at 250 about now, I think. I didn't range it, but just paced it. It was real easy at 200. So let's see how this does. So what is my overall impression of this? Despite my issues with the reticle at 1X and just not having much there to really focus in on, I like everything else about it. The build quality is really good, especially for the price point this comes in at. I think that it is actually a very good value for the money that you spend. LPVOs are interesting in that you can easily spend well over $1,000 on a decent LPVO, or there are companies making literally $150 scopes that just plain suck. This is in the middle, both with quality and with price, which is kind of exactly where you want it. This is a great LPVO to see if you like LPVOs. To get into LPVOs, this thing makes shooting your AR out to some greater distances extremely easy, especially if you've only been used to red dots or even red dots with magnifiers. This is much, much better for that. For shooting up close, it's not the best, but then again, all you got to do is mount an offset red dot. The features on this thing, I mean, this, it comes with a throw lever and it feels perfect. It's not too easy, not too hard to turn it. It's honestly exactly how you want it to be. And that's one of those big things where some of them just aren't. They're either too easy or not easy enough to adjust your magnification. The turrets are fantastic. I love the locking turrets. I love that you could zero it and then pull the turret off and put it at 0 and then dial for distance even, because with an 8X, I mean, you can go some distance with this thing, distance that you might want to dial to. Honestly, today out to 250, it was point of aim, point of impact, because I zeroed it for a 50 to 100 zero. And so I didn't have to dial anything, but you can, and that is pretty cool. I can't do that with this one. This is a zero it and, leave it kind of optic. This optic has a lot more that you can do with it for shooting a distance. And I think that's where they focused when they built this LPVO, is as a scope for shooting greater distances. And I think that they just didn't put enough focus in shooting up close and using it at 1X. And unfortunately, that is what an LPVO is. It's a low power variable optic. To me, that 1X is very important. But again, easily overcomable with an offset red dot. So all of the things that I've complained about with this, which is really only that reticle at 1X, all you got to do is put an offset dot or a piggyback dot, and then you've got a fantastic setup. And with the money you save by getting an LPVO like this, you can afford a red dot. You know what I mean? So I think that this is a really good value. I'm really happy with it. It's going to stay on my dream rifle for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to take this rifle out to distances that I've never shot it at before, which is going to be a lot of fun this summer. I've got a lot of other really fun stuff coming as well. Just about to the 1,000 round review on this thing, and it's doing pretty well, although it's had some issues as well. My Prodigy is coming back from being ported in Cerakote this week. That's coming up. We got a lot of good stuff coming on Sawtooth Tactical. The positives and the negatives so far are like many LPVOs. This thing does great shooting distance, 240, 250 yards, easy with the tripod. Even offhand, 100 yards, not that bad. It's definitely not as fast as an EOTech or a Red Dot. That's always been kind of one of my biggest gripes with LPVOs in general. So we're going to try it here on 1X and just see how quick it is. But I think that this LPVO really benefits from an offset red dot. So let's see. Not terrible, but there's just not really much of a reticle at 1X. Glass clarity, pretty dang good. Being able to shoot it at distance, really good. Being able to shoot up close, an offset red dot, which is loose, and that's great. Let's see if it still works. So let me know down in the comments, have you used GUNNR Optics LPVOs? I think that they sit at a really good place in the market, both as far as price and the quality and features that you get. I think you get a lot for your money. I think they could make improvements to that 1X, but other than that, I think that they are on the right path, and this is a pretty fantastic LPVO for the price. But I want to know what you guys think. Have any of you guys used GUNNR LPVOs? No compromise. Because honestly, I think for the price, is pretty freaking sweet. It has a lot more features than the Tango MSR from SIG, and it's about the same price. So, I mean, right there, pretty dang good value. But let me know, what is your favorite mid-tier budget LPVO? Let the other viewers know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you're subscribed. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.